Today we're going to try to answer the question, does size matter when it comes to pistols? Here we have a Glock 45 and a Glock 43X. We're going to be trying to dispel any of the common myths surrounding subcompact handguns. They're too snappy to shoot fast, that barrel's too short to be accurate, some of those kind of things. Please note that all the shooting done at the range was done by me, and everybody's results may vary. But honestly, what we were looking at was grouping and speed, and I think we accomplished that today. Jumping right in, one thing we noticed with the 43X is I could shoot it just as fast and not care about accuracy, but when I focused on accuracy, that's where the numbers kind of got interesting. When shooting today, I was obviously cold. This was the first drill of the day. Whether I was warmed up and had shot hundreds of rounds, I still feel like the numbers and accuracy would be really close. The speed would probably increase and the accuracy might increase, but theoretically you should still see the same difference between the 45 and the 43X. To test the speed and the accuracy of both guns, we're going to be doing isolation drills. We're going to be doing a 2-2-2 drill and a bill drill. This will let us see the speed and accuracy of the guns. We're going to be starting from the low ready to further reduce any human error with the draw and see what we can do. We're at 10 yards, 15 yards, and 20 yards. It'll give us a good test of accuracy. Okay, we got a 174 on the bill drill with the Glock 43X. Hits were not great, but not bad either. All 6 on target. I'm going to be really interested to see if I can get all 6 on target, 10 yards faster with the Glock 45. We got a 157 with the Glock 45 bill drill. You see here all the hits are a little bit tighter than the Glock 43X, and it really felt like I didn't have to try that hard to get this. The gun ran smoother, it felt flatter, not nearly as punchy. With the Glock 43X, I found I could shoot just as fast as the 45, but accuracy started to fan out and get less accurate, a lot less center mass hits. First run of the day with a 3.56. I was focusing on speed and accuracy. Got 2 C-zone hits, not perfect, but not bad for 10 yards. And then 15 yards, again, 2 C-zone, very close to the A. A little better accuracy. And on the 20-yard target, not good at all. You can see we're in D here, 2 kind of low left. Could have been pulling the trigger. Not great hits. Let's run the Glock 45 and see how it does. So we're seeing a 3.31 on the Glock 45 drill. Accuracy is almost in the same spot. It's a little bit tighter, still left. Could be me. At the 10-yard and then at the 15-yard, we are seeing to left again. We went and we're marking the 43 hits. And I accidentally marked this one, but these are the 245 hits. Very similar grouping, but again, left. The whole shifting to the left thing might be the dot. This is potentially a dot issue, but again, tighter grouping, still semi-left on the 45. This is kind of a benign drill. I thought we'd see a little bit more difference between the two guns. We're seeing a little bit better grouping with the 45 and a little bit better speed. If I spend a lot of time with both guns, shooting hundreds of rounds to the 43X, getting my best time, hundreds of rounds with the 45 and get my best time, we might see a bigger difference in accuracy and speed. Obviously, first 2 drills of the day are not going to be great numbers, but we are seeing a little bit of a difference, so maybe that would become more pronounced as time went on. So now let's see if there's a true accuracy difference between the 43X and the 45 on the ransom rest.
So to test the accuracy between the 2 pistols, we decided to use our ransom rest. So the setup involved setting the ransom rest on the picnic table, clamping it down so that it wouldn't move, and then using different grip inserts for both the 43X and for the 45. Once we had each gun inside of the vice grips, we loaded 5 rounds in the magazine, and then we took 5 shots, resetting between each one, pushing the gun down on the ransom rest. And then once we were done with 5 shots, so we went to our target right here and we circled and marked so we had the right data for each set of groupings. And so we wrote on each one, like we marked G45 5 shots 12 yards and then G43X 5 shots 12 yards. And so looking at this, we could see the different grouping patterns between the two, and using a ruler we can measure center to center distance from the 2 farthest shots. And the G45 turned out to be 1 inch center to center distance, about this far, and the 43X turned out to be 1.5 inches, same distance center to center. So this could seem like it's not too much of a difference, but even looking at the groupings again, like you can see it's much more spread out for the 43X versus the 45. The 45 almost punched a center hole out throughout its 5 shots. This can be seen mostly from the difference in barrel length. Between the two guns, there's a difference of about 3/4 of an inch. the 45 being 3/4 of an inch longer than the 43. And so with that difference in length, we got in the groupings, we got a 50% larger grouping from the 43X compared to the 45. For me personally, the difference in the two pistols accuracy-wise is almost negligible, as this is at 12 yards and the average self-defense shooting happens within 7. I am curious to see what would happen if we could push these pistols out further and just to see what the numbers would be. I'd be curious to see at 50 yards if the grouping would stay consistent or if it would vary wildly.
So a 50% difference in accuracy is rather surprising. A half an inch is pretty small though. Honestly, I would probably be way more inaccurate than what these guns can do. This is definitely mechanical testing and taking out the human element. So with that being said, I think a 43X is still a very good option. Sure, on paper, it's a little bit less accurate, but like I said, the gun is more accurate than I am. Most handguns are used for home defense, concealed carry, or competition, and most people are not using a subcompact handgun in competition. I think they still could. When you look at most competition standards, a 6 or 8 inch target is what they're shooting at. Obviously, there's only a half-inch difference at 12 yards. So beyond that, I don't think it would grow exponentially to the point you would actually notice a difference in competition. So I think we can securely say that size is not going to make that big of a difference. I think you're going to be a little bit slower and potentially a little bit less accurate with the Glock 43X or any subcompact handgun for that matter. But I don't think it's just to say that a small handgun can't perform, as it would probably outperform most of the people shooting the handgun. I think the biggest differences when you're looking at does size matter is actually what you can put on the handgun. The big difference here is going to be the weapon light. You can see the TLR7 is a lot smaller than the TLR1 high lumen. With that, you're going to have a smaller output. I think it's 1,000 lumens for the TLR1 and 500 for the TLR7 sub. This is very noticeable. We've done testing in the past between these two weapon lights, and it's just incredibly noticeable at 10 plus yards what you can see. As I always say, I think a weapon light is one of the most important upgrades to a handgun, because you cannot shoot what you cannot see. Another thing to keep in mind is you will see these optics are a lot smaller, which means the windows are smaller. People who have a harder time shooting with the red dot already will have an even harder time when you shrink down that window. To me, this isn't that important. I've done a lot of shooting with optics. Most of my time behind the handgun is with an optic. So for me, it's not gonna make that big of a difference, but we make these videos to show everybody what it would be like to shoot handguns. And for me, I think the smaller windowed optic would make a little bit of a difference for certain people. For most people, it's not gonna be as noticeable as the difference between the weapon lights. Another thing to keep in mind is capacity. The 45 holds 17 stock and the 43X only holds 10. Obviously, we are running the shield arms that hold 15, which make it much more comparable. But when you throw mag extensions on there, you're always going to be at a deficit. The bigger gun can just hold more rounds, which is incredibly important to me. Another big thing to keep in mind when you're comparing size is ergonomics. This 43X feels very square. There's a lot of hot spots on the frame. I do not like the length of pull of the trigger nearly as much as the 45. The 43X feels a lot shorter compared to the 45. It feels much more comfortable. And while this is personal preference, I think a lot of people hold the same sentiment that ergonomics are very important. For me, the Glock 45 or 17 size frame is very comfortable. There are some hot spots and it's still just a giant 2x4, but to me, it just feels a lot better in the hand than the 43X does. And it's definitely noticeable when shooting. Like I said, I can shoot this 45 a little bit faster. It just feels more planted in the hand when I'm shooting. The 43X kind of wants to rip out of my hands. It's very snappy, even with the compensator on there, and it just doesn't feel as refined as the 45. And really, they kind of had to make it small. They want this to be a very thin carry gun, so I get it. They shaved off as much plastic as they could, but it leaves a little bit to be desired in the form of comfort. So there's a lot more going into does size matter than just accuracy and speed. Both the attachments and the ergonomics of the handgun play a big part in how you can shoot a handgun. And I think that's really where this shines. So I'm kind of torn between these two handguns. I can perform with both, one better than the other, but I see the benefits of a small handgun. And it kind of comes down to what your dilemma is. Are you really good with the 45 or the 17, but it's just too big to carry? In that case, I think the 43X or a subcompact is a great option. And I definitely wouldn't rule it out, even with what everyone says in the industry, that you're gonna be inaccurate and that it's snappy and you can't be fast or accurate. Kind of proved that that is false today. However, with that being said, the 45 is kind of the clear winner on speed and accuracy. So size kind of does matter, but I think it's negligible when you look at it from the standpoint of what's actually important. What's really great about this outcome is now I know I can have my 43X for concealed carry and I can have my Glock 45 for competition, home defense, any of those situations that warrant a bigger handgun, and I know I can perform a little bit better. So what I'm hoping you guys take out of this video is what is important to you and pick out what details are relatable. If you find that the 50% decrease in accuracy out of the 43X is unacceptable and you're gonna stick with your big gun, I totally get it. Accuracy is very important, but if you're somebody who has a 45 and you just don't carry it because it's too big and heavy and you're on the fence, I hope you get something out of this video that would help you realize the importance of a smaller subcompact handgun, and they're not as bad as everyone says they are. We've had both these guns in videos before, so if you want more information on both of these, check out our channel. I'm sure you'll learn more about these guns specifically. Otherwise, if you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.